Hi everyone. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the new COVID-19 viral variants that we have been hearing a lot in the news recently and are causing quite a bit of concern among the scientific community, but also because of the big headlines among many people who are following the news. So what do we know about these viral variants? First, there's three of them. The most talked about right now is the one that was first identified in the UK. That's called B117. The second one was first identified in South Africa. It's called B351. And the last one was first identified in Brazil, and it's called P1 variant. The good news is that the normal measures that we've been using throughout 2020 to contain the epidemic still work against these variants, and that means social distancing, we're using face masks, hygiene measures, washing your hands, etc. The concern was around whether these variants were more infections or more deadly. And at least for the B117 variant, first identified in UK, what we know now is that it's clearly more infectious, and so seem to be the other two, meaning that it spreads more easily in the population and it probably needs a lower amount of virus to infect a person. The other cause of concern is whether they are more deadly. So far, there's no clear-cut information that would suggest that they cause either more severe disease or more death. However, because there's more people that are getting infected, there will be more cases of severe disease, hospitalization, and death, unfortunately, which is why many countries are tightening measures to avoid the spread of these new variants, country to country and also inside a single country. The other concern is whether the vaccines that are now being distributed in many countries will actually work against these viral variants. The research is still ongoing. There have been some publications, what we call preprint, so not yet peer-reviewed publications, that suggest that in studies that are made in the lab with blood from people who have been vaccinated can recognize in the lab the viral variants. In particular, the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine are able to recognize the B117 viral variant without any loss of immunity against that viral variant. I think I want to talk a little bit about how these studies work in the lab, because this is important to understanding what these results mean. We call them neutralizing studies, and basically you take the blood of a person that has been infected with the virus or a person that has been vaccinated, and you test against the virus in a petri dish. And what we are testing for is the antibodies in the blood and whether they're able to recognize the virus. And this is a quantitative assay, so you can actually measure how well or not well they are able to recognize the virus. This neutralizing studies actually measure just a small fraction of the whole immune response that a human is going to mount against a virus or through vaccination. So it's important to remember that, because we are measuring only a very special type of antibodies that are called neutralizing antibodies. Granted, these neutralizing antibodies are key part of the immune response, in particular against COVID-19 and other acute viruses. But there's other parts of the immune response that we are not measuring in these assays that are also important. It's just that they're harder to measure. The results show that the B117 variant is recognized just as well in the lab in these neutralizing assays as the current variant that is circulating worldwide. However, for the B351 variant that first appeared in South Africa, these preliminary results have shown a decrease in the neutralizing ability in the lab. There's no studies yet that I know so far for the P1 variant in Brazil, which is raising quite a bit of concern. So we need to wait until this information comes out. What do these results mean? Well, good news. Two of the vaccines that are mostly being distributed right now still work against what we call the UK variant, the B117 variant. And they work at least partly towards the B351 variant that was first identified in South Africa. Results still pending for the P1 variant. It's important to keep in mind what I said originally about how these studies work. So we are only measuring a tiny part of the whole immune response that the body is mounting through vaccination against the virus. So other parts of the immune response might still work quite well. Normally, the viruses will try and mutate the areas of their surface that are targeted by these neutralizing antibodies first. So we have some optimism that the rest of the immune response mounted against the virus can still be working. Second, these vaccines, the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine, are actually extremely efficient. They have very high levels of efficiency, and their neutralizing titers are very good. They're actually better from what you would get from what we call natural immunity. So once the antibodies that you produce, once you are actually infected with the virus. So they are probably quite able to withstand a little bit of a reduction in their neutralizing ability and still be effective against the virus, still protect against the virus. Of course, this is still hypothesis. We need to test it. We need to see what happens in the population as these viral variants continue to spread. But I think the bottom line here is there's a lot of confusing messages and a lot of scary messages out there. Yes, these viral variants cause concern. So far, the vaccines still seem to protect. And of course, all the other measures that we use can still contain the viruses. And this is an important message to remember. So if it's your turn and you have a chance, by all means, go and get vaccinated. It will create at least partial immunity and partial protection against the current virus and these new viral variants that are appearing.